Flint.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, I always like to start things decent and in order, and I want to give a little small prayer. Unless we have a pastor in the house, you're going to have to satisfy for a good lay church person like myself giving a prayer. But we always want to start out by honoring God. So if you just bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Gracious Father, we come before your throne today, thanking you for your mercy and grace as we come to honor these champions, these trailblazers in our community, those who made history for us all to reflect on and look forward to honoring their legacies as we move forward in this community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. You know, I come before you as we do some things not traditional here in the city of Flint as it relates to honoring people in this community. And I take leave in February is Black History Month. And so I thought it would be appropriate to honor the trailblazers of African American descent in our community. I'm not apologetic for honoring those who come before me so we can reflect on all the great works that they have done. And each one of the honorees have played a role in my life, and they probably played a role in everybody's life in this community. And as we think about the city of Flint, a great metropolitan city, moving through the 50s and the 60s with $1 billion corporation in our midst. We think about the migration from the people from the South. My grandfather and my grandmother came from Mississippi, all migrated here for the good jobs. As we think about the history of our Constitution, as you can see displayed on the left and right of me, is the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And it really speaks to us as African Americans in this country, as we engage this country as in servants, slaves, and indentured servants, as we migrated throughout history, taking our rightful place as leaders and role models, scholars, doctors, lawyers, politicians, and more. We have to honor those that we have stood on the shoulders of. And in this community, we will definitely do so in this month of February. So I'm so pleased to honor those trailblazers in this community. You know, we're going to start with some of those individuals, and I'll be doing a brief story about some of them, my personal stories as it relates to these individuals. But first, I would like to recognize our first honoree posthumously, Dr. Nathel Burtley, which was the longest superintendent of Flint Public Schools and also the first African American. As a young person, a young scholar, 21 years of age, I came back from college, and I worked 2 jobs most of my life. But Dr. Burtley gave me my first job in the school district. In secondary education, I was a career and technical education counselor, and he gave me a job at the age of 21. And being in secondary education, that really meant that I was probably 3 years older than the oldest students there. And so for me, as a young man, it provided a level of confidence, and he built and he passed the baton to me, giving me the confidence to stand and do a good job. And never criticizing me, but always educating me, making sure that I can do a good job there. I remember my first assignments was at Flint Central and also School of Choice, where another one of the honorees today, I met them, and they were also cultivating me there. Was Brenda Clack, was a teacher there at the time. And she remembers me being a young 21-year-old, walking through the halls, acting as if I knew everything. But Dr. Burtley never told me I didn't know much. But we want to make sure that we honor him and his legacy and the work that he's done in the education of our community. And his work is never done, because as I gave my small story, there's thousands of individuals like myself that he poured into and passed on a legacy that keeps living. And so we're never forgotten. Dr. Nathel Burtley is receiving the award today. And we did these awards based upon Kwanzaa principles. And Kwanzaa is a holiday season for African Americans. And the third principle of Kwanzaa, and I'm going to probably mess this up, and they gave me many different ways to pronounce this, but Ajuma. And Ajuma means collective work and responsibility. Collective work and responsibility. We have to take responsibility for one another in our community. And we have to do so with a level of pride and dignity and respect and encouraging ways that we can do and uplift one another. And so now I would like to recognize and honor Dr. Nathel Burtley posthumously, and his wife, Kathy, is here today to receive on his honor. and also, in the absence of the state representative in the 34th district, a district that I know well, also a state tribute in his honor. Congratulations, Dr. Ruben Burks.
Thank you. Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here today to accept this award on behalf of my husband. My husband came from Cairo, Illinois, to be here in Flint, Michigan. From the time he got here, he felt like Flint was home for him, and he made it his home. Nat worked extremely hard in the Flint Community Schools and for the community, but he never talked about the hard work he did, because every step that he took, he did it with love and compassion, and he loved the Flint Community Schools and the boys and girls. We lost Nat in April, 1 week before his birthday, Easter Sunday. He passed from COVID-19. During the time that COVID, we knew about it, but we didn't know enough about it. And it was such a sad and hard and difficult journey going through that, trying to save him every minute of the hour. But COVID not only caused us to wear masks, social distance, stay away from loved ones, not receive those hugs and handshakes that we need to motivate us to keep going. But he went in the hospital and he was there for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of being isolated from him was like doomsday. But receiving this award today was the reminder that I need at this time, and it's nothing that I didn't already know, but it reminded me of our mayor, the city of Flint, the people he worked with and worked for. Most of you that are sitting out there, I know your faces, I know your work, because you worked alongside of him. Thank God he did work that will be here forever. Every time I look at a school building, I know I think of him. So I'd like to thank the mayor, the committee, and the city of Flint for giving me, our family, this award, because what it feels like right now for me is that big bear hug that you need. And the bear hug that I have is coming from the entire Flint community. Never better hug. So for that and for many things, I thank the community and I thank our mayor and the committee. Thank you.
Well said, and she told me she was nervous before she came up here, and she did a fantastic job. You know, as we talk about this family reunion, we talk about our community, and we truly are a sum of all of our parts. And so the better and the sooner that we understand that, we can lift our whole society. And that is what the work that this next recipient talked about, uniting our efforts for the empowerment of people, blue-collar workers. This next recipient, when we talk about Ruben Burks, the first African-American Region 1C director, we talked about the collective work, especially going through a very transitional time in our history and our community and our nation. We talked about workers and workers' rights, and I understand that very well. We talked about collective work, collective bargaining agreements, and making sure that everybody's treated fairly across the board, whether you're black, white, red, or brown. Being treated fairly and equitably, especially in the workplace, was the work of a true champion. A never better champion than we ever had was Ruben Burks. Ruben Burks, and now we have a union hall named in his honor, but that's not enough for this community, especially when we talk about the challenges that African Americans have had in this community, in this country, as we push back against the dominant tendencies of a society that never always loved the black and brown community. But his work and his effort, he had to champion for everyone. His work would never be forgotten. UAW strong still stands. And I love the conversations that he and I used to always have, and it was always generational in the conversation because he used to always call me his buddy, right? And being a Generation X, that's not one of the terms that we use. It's usually your homie or your friend or something, but your buddy was the term that was often used by Ruben Burks. Here on his behalf today to receive the award is his family, a wonderful family, and they continue to pour into our community. The young brothers, they usually leave a lot of golf balls on the golf course, so I try to play behind them and collect all the great golf balls that you guys leave behind in the woods because you never hit a very straight shot.
Coming up to speak in a minute.
Okay, that's true. But we definitely want to honor Ruben Burks with the highest honor that I can deliver in the city of Flint. This one is entitled the Jumi Award, which is the third principle of Kwanzaa, but to present a key to the city and a state proclamation to Ruben Burks.
Ms. Clack. Doing good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank everyone for attending. My name is Dr. Larry Young, and this is Dr. Mari Young, my son, and I wanted him to speak as well, to speak to the issue of legacy. There's so much and so many things I could say regarding my father in terms of his influence, but legacy is the primary one that's been on my mind since I was contacted by the mayor's office. My father was born in the rural Deep South. Poverty, illiteracy, unemployment was the norm for us as African Americans. He moved north to say, look, I want something better for myself and my family. He was the rock of our family. He left a legacy of hard work, honesty, but I always remember him saying all the time when we would get in our debates, because I was more Republican than Democrat, a little bit more pro-business and so forth, until he got me a job in a plant, and that changed my mind altogether. But it was all about, he would say, well, what about the workers? I would talk about how Wall Street was doing and all that. But what about the workers? What about the people? And that's something that led me to a career in medicine, because it's about the people. It's just not about self. It's about the people. In this age of I-ism versus we-ism, his legacy stands to support that. He knew he had to improve and better himself and his family life, so he attended school and college and trade school at night. He continued to matriculate through the community and through the UAW. That in itself showed us that the sky is the limit. When society said you can't do, he showed us you can do. He was always about the community. And that's something that in my career is deeply embedded within myself. As I said, as a statement to that, my son, as well as my brother, career in medicine, it is about the Flint community. I went to medical school in D.C., but I came back to Flint. My son went to school at Harvard University, but he came back to Flint. My brother went to school in Lansing, but he came back to Flint. And that legacy of we and us is what stands in my mind as a legacy to my father. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, and I want to thank the mayor and the city of Flint again for this wonderful honor. Again, I'm Dr. Amari Young. I'm one of the many grandchildren of Ruben Burks, and I want to speak on behalf of all the rest of the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all the other family that couldn't be here. I was just speaking earlier, just kind of surreal moment, because it's actually my first public event since the pandemic started, and it's actually we're at our year anniversary, and it's been a trying year, a difficult year. But events like this, recognitions like this, let us see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And as Ms. Burtley spoke earlier, it was a difficult time losing my grandfather because we couldn't grieve normally. We couldn't come close together as a family. We had to have a small funeral ceremony, so we couldn't grieve and come together, particularly for my grandmother, Gertrude Young, and it was a difficult time. But it was having this recognition means the world to us. We're very appreciative, and as my dad spoke on the professional side in his community works, but he was just as diligent as a family man. He was a man of few words, but he let us know that he was proud of us, he loved us, and he only accepted excellence from us. As we spoke earlier, he was from Shreveport, Louisiana, and now generations later, we have 3 physicians and multiple other people in our family that are doing amazing things. So we've come a long way in a short amount of time, and it's because of the city of Flint that's been supportive of us and allowed us to be in this position. So we are very grateful, appreciative, and again, thank you, Mayor, and the city of Flint for this wonderful honor, and God bless everyone.
Truly excellent. I tell you, I sent 2 kids through college. I can't imagine what a Harvard education would cost nowadays. But man, I tell you, a great legacy, great legacy. And as we talk about the migration from families from all over the country, coming here for the good manufacturing jobs and all the multiplying jobs, it was a byproduct of those works. We had to put things into place. As we know, the history of the city of Flint was the first community that had fair and open housing by law. The mayor, McCree at the time, it was passed by city council, but then they had to modify our city charter to make sure they supported families in that effort to make sure that they can live anywhere they wanted to, that they could afford to in this community. So the human relations was started and created, and it took many directors to get it to a perfected level of service for residents, a concierge of sorts. Residents came with concerns, issues, and they needed some help. And so on a municipal level, on a governmental level, we had to put the Human Relations Commission into service. That service will return. It was disassembled by one of the emergency managers maybe 5 years ago. That body will start back this year. So, but it's befitting to honor a person who led that effort for families and people for many years, a gentle soul, a sweet person, a kind-hearted individual, a retiree of the city of Flint in that capacity, Mrs. Clearer McGee, a director for the Flint Human Relations Commission. Give her a round of applause.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. It is indeed a pleasure to be here this afternoon. This is the first event I've basically been to since the pandemic started, and so I am so pleased to be here. And when the mayor let me know that I would be receiving the key, I was kind of set back, and then I thought, well, if for any reason I can go for this occasion. So I'm very pleased, Mayor. Thank you so much. When I served on the Charter Commission, one of the things that I was certain that I wanted to do was to make sure that the Human Relations Commission was included again in the Charter, because there were so many things that had been destroyed during those times when we had the emergency managers and so forth. And the Human Relations Commission, I used to call it the soul of the city, or the social aspect of the city, because of the things that it did. Not only did we work toward human and civil rights, but we also worked toward equity for families who couldn't get their water on or didn't have heat during the winter and so forth. So I worked with great people like Rosa Anderson, and we just had a great time working for people and trying to help people move through the system. And so I'm just so pleased today to be honored for doing a job that I truly loved. And I want to go back a little bit, because the jobs that I have worked in over the years have been jobs that I truly loved and never felt like jobs, but felt like an honor to do. And one of those was working for Flint Neighborhood Improvement and Preservation Project, which we all knew as Flint NIP. And my job there was to help organize and create block clubs. And I want to honor a member of those clubs, Mrs. Rutherford, Alice Rutherford. Mrs. Rutherford passed a few days ago, and her funeral will be tomorrow. But she was the president of the Bryant and Genesee area block clubs, and there were so many of those that that have gone on and who did so much to make sure that our neighborhoods were safe and that we could work in our neighborhoods and our families could be safe. And so I would like to honor Mrs. Alice Rutherford and her passing. And also another job that I had, which wasn't a job, it was just a pleasure, and that was the creation of this beautiful center. I helped to create it, and I am so proud of it. I'm so proud of the staff with Shelley being at the helm, and so proud of our mayor for helping us to create this wonderful facility. And so I'd just like to thank all of the staff and thank the mayor for his help. He wasn't the mayor at that time, he was a state representative, but he always supported us. And even during the time I served on the Charter Commission, he supported the commission as well. So I'd like to give him thanks for that. I'd also like to thank my family, my husband Percy, and my daughter Denise. Denise is representing all of the children and grandchildren today. I'd just like to thank all of you. So many of you I know have worked with on different maybe boards or commissions and so forth. And I'd just like to thank the Flint community because Flint has truly been great to me. And so I'd like to thank all of you. Thank you, Mayor.
That's Tommy, she takes care of me. I tell you, Flint is our home, and we love our home. And we have to respect our home because nobody else is going to do it for us. We have to come together and celebrate each other more often than not. Life is short, too short for the strife that comes along sometimes with it, with the petty arguments that comes along with it. And sometimes in time of trouble that brings us closer together. Under God's eye, watchful eye, he watches us work. And I believe that praise is an act of our actions. I believe the work has to be done. And we have an obligation to one another to do that. The next recipient is a young man, and I don't read everybody's bio because I want to leave and reserve time for everybody to have great comments. This young man has never been absent of words. If you ever sat down to get a haircut, I don't have to go through that challenge anymore in my life. I just do it right in the shower every morning. But Norm Bryant, a great, great man. I went to school with 3 of his daughters. And they never looked my way. All of them beautiful cheerleaders, and I wasn't tall enough, I guess. But Norm Bryant, Bryant's Barbershop, also a retiree of General Motors, the founder and creator of the African American Hall of Fame in this community. They call Flint, the Mecca for athletes. We talk about the Flintstones. We talk about all those great individuals. We talk about a lot of great athletes, and sometimes generationally we'll forget about all those great athletes that we had in our community. With the fastest human at one time running here, a World Series player for the Oakland A's came from here, wrestlers, true champions outside of basketball. But we would forget about those contributions. World champion Clarissa Shields, and I give her a plug, she's coming to the Dordt Federal Center on March 5th to defend for a championship and also to try to gain another. And I'm proud to say that working with Mr. Bryant, that we're going to be resurrecting and giving new life to the African American Hall of Fame that will find its home and its permanent home at Burston Fieldhouse, maybe just a half a mile from this current location. Thank you, Mr. Norm Bryant, for that nudge and that push in the quiet way that you do it, if it's quiet at all when you do it, but we will make that happen for you. This will be your legacy as we move forward in this community. Thank you so much. We honor now Mr. Norm Bryant with the highest honor of the city, which is King of the City.
Thank you, Mayor Neeley. I'm almost lost for words. I don't know what to say because, the Bible speaks of hearers and doers, and I'm a doer. And I would rather be doing something for someone else rather than having someone else do something for me. But before I get started, with this COVID and stuff going on, my wife, she didn't feel like coming out tonight, this afternoon. But I have a friend that I'd like to recognize. I've been knowing this young man ever since I was 6 years old in Flint. We went through school together. We played ball against each other. Back during those years, Industrial Avenue, if you stayed from Carton Street on down to Leith, they call it the city. But if you stayed from Carton Street north to Pearson Road, they called it the sticks. So my team is from the sticks, his was from the city. But I'd like to recognize my good friend Gerald Moore, who's sitting in the back there. I appreciate you supporting me. And I'd like to close by just saying this. Sometimes I wonder, how do I fit in this group? Now, Ruben Burks was a good friend of mine. Of course, Ruben was in the UAW, but I was salary all the way. But we were still friends. And when Nathel Burtley came on the school board, superintendent, I was on the school board. So we were very good friends. And the Clacks, I don't know enough to say about the Clacks because my wife ran a daycare and she kept their son, Michael, little old guy, always running around the house. And I pull in the driveway coming up here and he rolled the window down, Mr. Bryant, do you know me? And he had his mask on. I say, I know you, mask and all. But I just want to let Mayor Neeley know that I really appreciate what he's trying to do to help us out, especially the African American Sports Hall of Fame. This is something that we need to know our history. And if any of you know a guy, he used to be a radio announcer, and he used to always say, Dick Vitale, he used to always say, Flint is noted for producing cars. But Flint has a similar line of athletes that you just wouldn't believe. And we do, and we need to recognize this. And one other thing I'm going to say before I sit down, and thanks to Sheldon too, is that, years ago, we used to fight for what we wanted. Fight for it. And I'm going to go down swinging. But we need to teach black history in every school in this city. The NAACP years ago, we used to fight to get jobs, fight to get positions. We can't stop fighting because history is what we're made of. And it's always been said that the people shall perish for the lack of knowledge. And when I hear people talking about, I didn't know so done this, Flint is rich in history. And thanks, Mayor, appreciate it.
Thank you for those words. And this group of individuals, as you see, there's a commonality to the group that was selected. Much more than often when the world looks at the city of Flint, because of the water crisis that we have ongoing, and I call it the intersection of crisis because we have social unrest in our country, we have an ongoing water crisis, and also we have now a worldwide pandemic. It's more often easy for the world to look at the city of Flint and see a community of victims. But we're much more than victims. We are victors. And this group that has been selected today has a special DNA that we need to resurrect that spirit of victors in our community. Because it's going to take all of us to fight. And the direction in which we're going in this community is going to take every one of us pushing and fighting because we are truly victors. This next award goes out. The Bible says when you found a wife, you found a good thing. We know that Jay-Z has Beyonce. We know Barack has Michelle. But we also know Floyd has Brenda. Our Flint-owned power couple here. And so, as I mimic some of the steps and some of the work that they have done, we have done some great work, and we have to pass the baton. We have to push forward. We have to move. We're not victims in this community. and we should not ever be tolerated to being reflected as one, as the world watches us. They need to continue to watch us. We will be the lighthouse of hope for a nation and also for a state. This next recipient, duly, equally, because they are each other's helpmate, supporting one another, working with one another to help the community. Educators by trade. Educators by trade. As I stated early on, when I first got my first assignment working for the Flint Community Schools in the secondary education, my first primary assignment was Central High School, and then they moved me over to School of Choice. It was a little bit more difficult for me at School of Choice, but I had some help there with Mrs. Clack, helping me, teaching me, and guiding me how to help educate and work with young people. So today I want to call up the great duo, Flint's power couple, Floyd and Brenda Clack.
Always good at the back.
Greetings, everyone. This is really, it's wonderful. I'm going to take this off now. See my smiling face. It's wonderful. It's truly an honor to be recognized by people that you love and that you have worked with for years. It's something in my life that I didn't expect would happen at this point. So I want to thank you, Mayor, for this recognition, and your staff. I know so many people here. It was so fun coming in this auditorium, because primarily I don't go but two places. Doctor. I go to the doctor, and I have a lot of them. I go to the grocery store. With Floyd, I sit in the car. So, my life is, just last week I told him, I said, Floyd, this thing is kind of coming in on me. I'm a pretty strong person, and most of you know that. I said, but now it just seems like we're just here. But I'm blessed because I went through a real bad situation. It was not COVID, but it was so close to it. So I am blessed to be here. So, Doctor, it is so good to see you and your son. Congratulations. To Norm, you talked about education. I taught in Northwestern High School, but even further than that, and you're correct with Black History, because I helped write the program and select the book. And some of you, if you were at Northwestern High School at that time, I actually chose the book to be used for the Black History Studies for the Flint Community Schools. And it was going so well. I see my kids now, and they say, you taught us so much, and I remember, and it was so important that you taught us. But I always would tell them, now you teach your children. You teach your children. And my son, you couldn't find a better historian than Michael Clack. He knows it. He better know it, because that is what he grew up with. And it's important for us to do that. It's important, Norm. I'm glad you brought that out. And those of you who've done so well, my pastor standing over here, Pastor, raise your hand, Pastor Banks, knew it's so much we have to be thankful for. So this city has afforded Floyd and I so many positive things. When I came here from Memphis, Tennessee, I thought, oh, this is a country town. I am not going to be here long. I'm going to make me some money in a couple of years, and I'm out of here. But it was the camaraderie with the people. The educational system was superb. It was superb. And for that reason, and I was a part of that, I said, I am not going anywhere. This is it. I hadn't met him yet, but I was going to be, I was going to stay in Flint after that. So to the many individuals who are here today, we have so many. We have so many educators. We have athletes. We have businessmen. We have women who have done so well. My Link sister, raise your hand. There you go. Former police chief at Mott. My Link sister, Carrie, now fire chief. I mean, we have done well, and we have to recognize that. And let me say this too. You said something, Mayor. We have to stop fighting each other. We have to bring each other up. We have to recognize the pluses, and not the minus about our lives. Where's Marjorie? Oh, there's my. Love her to death because she experienced something with this black woman that she had not experienced before, and I don't think she'll ever forget it. So I was so glad to see her. But let us know, all the people in this community who've done well, don't bypass anybody. And I know you're waiting, Floyd. But most importantly, don't forget the children. That is where my focus has been, children, because they need us more now than ever. I have two things to be proud of, two very important things to be proud of. And one is, some of you probably didn't know, that I am responsible and sponsored the smoking ban bill for the state of Michigan. Marjorie knows. I knew and was tired of going to restaurants, people blowing smoke in my face, and didn't know when the governor actually came to me and asked me, that was Governor Granholm, she said, Representative Clack, I have a very important bill, and I think you can carry that bill. You can make that bill become law. And as you know, you can go in restaurants now. You don't have to worry about people blowing smoke. You're free to breathe. The other bill that I had to do with foster kids and kids who fostered out of the foster care system. Once they were 18 years of age, they would say goodbye to whomever was receiving that check every month. I was at Northwestern, a student came to me and said, well, he didn't come to me. I recognized something was wrong with him that day, and I asked him, what is wrong with you? He said, I'm okay. I said, you wait for me after school. And so after school, I said, you got to tell me something is wrong with you, because he was the epitome of a nice student. He said, I will tell you, did you see that bag I had with me? And I said, yes. He said, those are my clothes. He said, I turned 18 this morning, and my foster care mother said, goodbye. There's no longer any state money to give to you, to give to me for you. He couldn't even go back to the house. So I found him a place to stay in the system, and didn't know I was going to be running for state rep at that time, but that was my first thought. Do something for these kids. And I was able to do so. A bill was passed. Now kids they don't have to cash out of the system. They can stay in the system until they're 21 years of age, until their feet are on the ground. And tell me that's not important. Kids don't have to get out in the street. There's a life for them. So I'm going to quit now because I know what Floyd's going to tell you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. We want to thank the mayor for making certain that this continue as it relates to our younger people coming up. I remember a long time ago, I met Brenda. Now, Brenda, we were at a teachers' meeting in Wisconsin, in Lansing. No, it wasn't Lansing. Was it Lansing?
Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo. I was just checking her to see if she remembered that. We met in Kalamazoo. And she was sitting back at the back. No, I had made a speech, that's what it was. I had made a speech, and she was sitting somewhere.
He was chair of the Black Caucus for the MEA.
Thank you, baby. His hair is gray, you know. So what I did, I looked at, checked everybody around, you know how you do. Brothers know how you do. So I pointed at her. All up. Well, who? So she didn't understand. So I said, talking about you. And she kept looking back. She couldn't hear me because we were a long ways apart. But she could see me pointing at her. So eventually she decided, me? Yeah, it's you. Then she stepped up. She started, okay. so we've been together ever since. Let me say this. I am originally from Texas. And I ended up all my life growing up going to leave Texas and go to California. I knew that every day. Leave Texas and go to California. That's where Texans basically went. They went west. Well, somehow, some way, I went off to college and graduated and decided I had to take a job in Wisconsin. I took the job in Wisconsin, ended up, the politicians cut the money out, and so I said, oh, I've got to go somewhere. Where can I go? I said, well, this is the time to go to California. But I got to thinking, I don't have any money to get to California. I'm in Wisconsin. I had a friend, and we had gone to school at Texas Southern University in Houston, graduated, and we just, by the Lord blessing us, we both were from Texas. We both went to Wisconsin. We taught in Wisconsin for a few years. And then when the politicians eliminated the funds, we had to decide where do we go. So one guy had left ahead of time and moved to Flint because his sisters and brothers lived in Flint. So he came over to Flint. So we decided that, okay, we'll go where Newhouse is at. Where is he? He's in Flint. So we ended up coming to Flint. One of the greatest, or the greatest thing that we've ever made a decision to come and do, to go and do. So we got here, and I worked at Buick, Fisher Body, somewhere else, a few other places. And I also ended up teaching for a long time. In the teaching, I discovered that the young people were always hyped, ready to go and ready to do. So I said, well, I got to get over here and get carried away with these young folks. I just can't teach them. We got to get something going. So we started doing some things in the community and around the city. You trying to rush me? Am I running out of time? So make a long run short, and that is, we stayed in Flint 40-some years, married my best lady, and Northern, anybody here from Northern Biking?
Yes, sir.
Northern Biking?
That's right.
That's right. I went biking, taught at Bikings for a long time, and here we are today. We certainly appreciate Viking from doing this, giving us this experience and event. We ask that anytime that there's anything that we can do, feel free to let us know. We certainly appreciate the opportunity that we ended up in Flint, met in Flint, and therefore I guess we'll be in Flint. Thank you.
See Brenda let Floyd carry all the hardware. I want to recognize again the State Representative Cynthia Neeley. In her absence, she's in session today, but she wanted to make sure that she was a part of this, honoring these great individuals and our great legacy inside the city of Flint. It is incumbent upon us that stands on the shoulder of greatness to make sure that we take the baton and continue to move forward, but not to forget that those that was behind us that provided us the opportunities. And that's why we're doing it today. That's why I've taken leave on February to recognize African American greatness in our community. Juneteenth is the oldest African American holiday in our country, the oldest. We recognize it, we reflect upon it, but it doesn't have all the benefits of a true holiday in America. But I'm proud to say in the city of Flint, that changed last year. Juneteenth is an official holiday here in the city of Flint with all the trimmings. And we will continue to make those bold steps because that's what society dictates to us. That's what my faith dictates to us. And for this next award, as we talk about being together, standing together, working together in unity and harmony, it's important for our survival in this community. Along with the state and a key to the city, I asked for a concurrent resolution to be passed by the Flint City Council. And if you guys know the relationship with Flint City Council's and administration, you know it was a challenge. To get that through, to say the very least, you know. But we worked very hard, and one of the true champions on council, Vice President Maurice Davis, I'm gonna ask you to come up with me. I'm gonna ask Chief Ray Barber to step up. Deputy Chief Kerry Edwards to both all come up to recognize this last honoree. So in concurrence with our Flint City Council, the Mayor's Office, and the state, we want to recognize this young man. And it was a pleasure. I had never actually came into his presence before. A young man that, you know, after a brief stint in the military, in 1961, he hired into the fire department here in the city of Flint. And let me just work a little backwards for you so you can understand where we are in the city of Flint. Genesee County is the second most segregated county in the state of Michigan. The city of Flint is the most segregated city in the state of Michigan. We still have a lot of work to do. Now imagine in 1961, it's a little bit easier when you're the first, if you're one of 15 or one of 20. But when you're the first of 270 in 1961, before affirmative action really took hold and took place, when we working through a very difficult time in our nation, it was a very difficult upcoming through that piece. In 1961, imagine being the first firefighter of color. It was a very difficult time in our community. Remember what I just told you, where we are still today. This young man, I found out when I gave him a personal call to ask him would he let me honor him with this key to the city. And then he started talking to me and he says, are you related to this Neeley and this Neeley? And come to find out he was my grandfather's very, very good friend. A grandfather who I've never known. He passed before I was born. And for me to reach back to be able to say that I know somebody that knew my grandfather that was a good friend, that he went fishing and hunting with and had cookouts with, that is amazing. And he just shared a little bit more with me. He told me my grandfather was a great guy, kind words. And I often wondered, you know, where my father got that from, all these stories. And you got to know everything is related to golf. It's always a golf story at the end of it. But my father always says, the greatest measurement of strength is your discipline. The greatest measurement of your strength is your discipline. Are you strong enough to walk away? Are you strong enough to say no? Are you strong enough to build versus tear down? The high road is thin as a thread and sharp as a razor, but you got to walk it. And that might be him calling now. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I thought I had it off. But those are the lessons that I was taught when my father changed Detroit Street, helped change Detroit Street, as he took me as a young kid walking up down Detroit Street with a petition to change it to Martin Luther King Avenue, saying that we had work to do. We still have work to do. We face some challenges in this community, and you're going to be hearing about some more bold steps as I move forward. We're going to be changing things, fixing things once and for all in this city for our children. They have the right, and we have the obligation and a commitment to them to make it better in our education system, to make the community safer and better. And we will make the bold steps to do it. And we will have the discipline enough to make sure that we get it done. But this individual provides a lot of inspiration. As you see firefighters behind me and standing in front of me from Station 6, correct, Chief? The station where he was, he spent the bulk of his career doing great work, a business owner, an entrepreneur. If I'm correct, I think his daughter told me he owned a gas station. Was it leaded or unleaded? But imagine this. Imagine these stories that we can transmit to our children as we move forward. We don't have to go outside the borders of our own community to look for our heroes. We don't have to go outside the borders sometimes of our home to look for our role models. Those are the things that we need to transmit to our children. So now I honor, on behalf of the Flint City Council, with a concurrent resolution, the fire department. Okay, another fun tip, fun fact that he could have gave me before we stepped up here. Yeah, but you make sure you do that in the next report. I'll make sure I know everything beforehand. The only dual son and father that fulfilled the obligation to this commitment as firefighters. His son, Joe Davis Jr., followed in his father's footsteps, relating to the words where I said your role models and your best role models is your mother and your father, uncle, your cousin, neighbor, and friend. So Joe Davis Jr. followed in his father's footsteps. And I believe he was a firefighter back when I was a city council person. I think I read his name on a couple of reports or two. But that is what we have to do. So today, in concurrence with the Flint City Council, firefighters from Station 6, the chief and deputy chief, we honor and give honor to our friend, Mr. Joe Davis Sr.
All of this kind of hard when you get there. To the Honorable Mayor Neeley, to the elected, appointed officials, departmental heads, to the city of Flint. You know, it's really, really a blessing to be here. It's an honor to be here. It's just a little bit of everything good to be here, which I never had ever dreamed that this type of recognition and honor would ever be given and recognized me. So it's a little bit hard for me to gather my composure, but I'll get there in a minute. And I just want to thank the citizens of Flint, along with the officials. When I came to Flint in 1956, and I looked around a little bit, and I said, the town is so small, but it's not crowded. I don't feel crowded out. And it's large enough that I can't get lost. So I sort of fell in love with Flint. And in doing so, I became employed with the GM plant. And after a course of time, I started looking around for a more secure job, and I signed up for anything with civil service. It just so happened the fire department was the one that I applied, and they said for me to write the exam. So I did that and passed, and also had the oral interview and also the climbing test. And coming out of the muddy streets of Macon, Mississippi, where the roads, and moving at 7 years of age to the Magic City, Birmingham, Alabama, living in the slum, which we could afford. My dad and 3 children at the time. Also, my dad died on my birthday, July the 9th, 1946. So that's kind of left a burden on the family, who was already as poor as you could be. And I began to work as a little delivery boy at a grocery store at the corner, owned by Italian and Irish. And so through that, I was able to continue on to school and finish high school, 1 year at Parker High, and then finish out at Auburn. And at that time, I was 17 going on 18, and I'd made it up with some friends. We talked about what we're going to do afterwards, other children from the slum. And the other 3 buddies say, well, let's join the Army. And that's what I did. And in January, I finished high school. In April, I was in the military. And before July, I was overseas. So I spent about 8 weeks in training. And as a child growing up from the South, I'd never been in any other state except Mississippi and Alabama. And then when I came to South Carolina for my basic training, to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and then overseas. So I got to turn and do this. I have to give I've kind of a steel bit on it. I like to salute the American flag because I love America. And anymore now, I look around and you might see any kind of flag. I spent a little time in Germany, and there I never saw a German flag, Hitler's flag, but I see it here in the state of Michigan. In fact, at the Capitol I saw this. I don't need to get into that, but seeing so many things going on, I've been running against the wind. I'm 88 years old, my vision is bad, my hearing, but other than that, I'm still ticking. And the reason why is because there's something within me kept calling and say, move on, continue on. And when I joined the fire department in '61, I had no idea there were no blacks or whatever. I didn't come looking for that. I came for a job. And it was like, in fact, at that time, if you look back in '61, the people I worked with, my seniors, they were around the age group of George Wallace of Alabama, Bill Bowe of Mississippi. Those are the kind of people that were attending the same school, the same age group. So all of that mentality had somewhat rubbed off a little bit because that was their culture. It was their way of life. And so it was with me as a child growing up in the South, in the ghetto or the slum. I didn't know anything about segregation because my parents never talked about it. They just say, keep your mouth shut, don't run your mouth off, stay out of the way, and mind yourself and go ahead. They never did tell you what problems. I didn't realize that I was being discriminated against. It was just a way of life. Until later on, I began to learn these situations that existed. And today, I just want to thank Flint. It's been so good to me and my family. I can recall the Mott Foundation. I used to pay like $7.50 to go to adult school classes at night. In fact, I took up house construction. I learned, and I built my own home by that. I learned, take a hobby, glass blowing, small engine repair, all these Mott adult classes. And this is the money that I could afford, but it well worth it. So Flint has given so much to me and my family. I was able, with my wife Mary, the mother of the 5 children, they all have finished college, they all have good jobs, and they are doing well, and they are well-rounded citizens of Flint, wherever they are. Some, the one is down in Florida, but Flint produced product. And I'm very, very proud of Flint and proud of my children. And the thing I'm more proud of is the fact is that the opportunities are here, but yet so suppressed because it seems that some parts of the nation want to roll things back. They don't want Black America to move forward. I didn't just come from Black America, I come from the backside of America also. And I know what it is to have the privilege of having a decent meal, having shoes on my feet now. And back in those days, they didn't have programs. They didn't reach out. And still, I made it, the struggle, running against the wind this long for 88 years. No, we cannot allow them to roll back the sign of progress. And the young firemen that are here that are supporting me today, I certainly feel gracious and humbled for your support being here. And I hope and pray that you continue to carry the ball and put forth your best. Each day I've come to work, when I was on the force, I would give that baker's dozen. I'd do just a little bit more, not because people were watching me, but because I wanted to. I felt good working and saving lives and property here in the city of Flint. I was dedicated, and the people were paying me, yes. But on the other hand, it just felt good to know that I had helped an individual along the way to save their property. And today, we are trying to maintain an image that we are more so than people standing on the corner looking for a handout. But this is the image that the bad apples of America want to present to the world. They want to talk down at you, to discourage you. They just do not want to share the American pie. We have a piece of the pie coming, but they just don't want to give it to us. You know, it's a funny thing. Coming up, I come up on the Jim Crow, and I thought about Jim. He was the old guy sit up there on the horse. And the Crow were the black people out there picking cotton. That's where the phrase come from. And I grew up with discrimination, segregation, all the name change, red lines, all the names that they come up to change and keep kicking the can down the road. So when they come up and start talking, I just look and start walking. Because what they're talking about, it doesn't seem to calculate. It doesn't add up, as they say. Well, why do you hate me? Why you dislike me? It's not you. Well, who is it? If everybody was like you, how am I? So, well, my dad, they just can't come up and say, my parents taught me this. It is our culture. Yes, we were wrong. The black people, Americans, that came here, not on their own, they were brought here and chained, cooped up. And when they were so-called free, they just turn them loose. They don't even get an injured animal and nurse it back to health and turn it loose to the wild. They take it in rehab. But they would not do that for black America. Constantly. Anybody come from another country come here, you got to step back and let them step up on one rung on the ladder. Why? Why are we persecuted? The reason because who is going to bag your shot? Who's going to bag your shot? We don't have a country to call for assistance to help us with the struggle. They're beginning to stand up and see that blacks are not what the fairy tale has been told about them. They want to live the American dream while we live a nightmare. And you know, I don't feel anger, I don't blame, I don't hate, because it's at that time what people were taught, what their parents taught them. And the reason why their parents taught this, that's another thing about Black History Month. Black history should be 365 days a year. And this is the only way to eradicate the lies that is passed on about you are not worthy. You fought for this country, you worked for this country, but yet, have you been compensated? They put $1 in your pocket. What about the equality? And I just think about, I get a little bit, I passed something. I saw this lady standing there. She had a scale in her hand. And I whispered in her ear, I said, "What's the problem?" She said, "You know, all these years," and I looked at her cheeks and it was wet with tears. She said, "I've been standing here waiting for America to bring the fruit here of equality so I can weigh it, but they haven't showed up yet." And what we need to do, we need to take this justice, recalibrate the scales, take the rag over her eyes so she can see what some citizens are doing to America. She is blind. She can't see what is happening to America. And I'm certain if justice could see the different flags being waved, I believe in one God, one country, one flag. Now everybody's waving the flags that Nazi Germany or whatever, the people that I volunteered for service in 52 to 55, 3 years. I wasn't drafted. I didn't try to dodge, run to Canada. No, I went down and volunteered to serve my country because I love my country, even though they have not stood up to the table and supported me and say, "You are one of our sons. We love you, and we'll do what we can." But I am honored to be here and having the support of the fire department, of the entire community, and all the good people here that are standing behind me and with me. And I say this, regardless of how bleak the future may appear to be, stand together with the good apples from that bushel. The bad one, pay them no attention. You see, all of the distrust and the prejudice that I had to endure, it didn't change my taste and my appetites for apples. I still like apples. I just toss the bad ones out. So I thank you, Brother Mayor. Thank you so much. I thank all the people here today. I thank you.
Well said. I think we learned something there. I definitely did. And he's 86 years young, and still 88 years young. And this is Jesse. I called him Junior by mistake, but that's Jesse Davis. I apologize. But 88 years young, and his endurance is still strong. You know, as he was talking, I watched Jesse, his son. He was sweating over here like we were working out. Jesse grabbed the podium. His father didn't. So. You know, it was something to be said there, something to be said about our community. And what I want to do here is also ask for the DNA that from the honorees, we have to engage that again for the fight that we have in front of us. Coming together is a start, working together is progress, and staying together is success. We have obligation. So all the true champions, the honorees, restart that DNA. We're going to need you in this community. Our families need you. And from our 3-point plan downtown, I call it prayer, partnership, and planning. I kind of messed that up. I think I got my P's, but it's prayer, planning, and partnership. But the thing about it is this: we can't be successful alone. We have to be with one another. We have to be a sum of a total body. And for all our honorees, congratulations. I definitely want to thank a few people. I want to thank Tommy. I want to thank Mrs. Brown. I want to thank Marjorie. And also Burton Brown is here. I think that Burton Brown, he helped sponsor all the boxes because I didn't want to do it from taxpayer dollars. I wanted it to be truly an organic situation from our community. Burton Brown is one of the youngest and new partners in Kelly Cawthorn in Lansing, Michigan. He is a partner. And Burton was one of the students at Central High School when I was there. So we'll be tapping on him for more stuff to sponsor later on, if that's okay. But congratulations to all of you, Tommy, Renetta, Marjorie, Ms. Brown, my staff. Thank you. And I want you to take a look around this building. This was a closed school building, resurrected by a vision. Now you have an independent water testing lab here, more work happening in the back for domestic violence and abused women. You have the literacy library right out here, the only opportunity for kids to get educational opportunity outside of the school building, the only second library inside the city of Flint. You have the Flint Public Library, now you have the literacy lab here. You have other components here, and this was a sleeping giant. Right now, we have to liquidate our liabilities, turn them into assets. The school district has 24 vacant buildings, but this is an example. This is not government funded in total. This is funded by many different aspects, servicing the needs of this community. And this was the elementary school where I attended. My mother still lives 2 blocks where I was raised from here. So it's important for us to take these opportunities to celebrate one another, build one another, and encourage one another. And with that, congratulations and God bless. Did the pastor leave? Did your pastor leave?
Yes, he did.
Any other pastors in the house? If not, I'm going to ask Maurice Davis, Vice President Davis, to come up here and end with a closing prayer. I see you in your podcast. I see you talking. I know you God. So we want to close out with a parting prayer, praying for peace for our community, praying for unity in our community and in our hearts, and truly to lift one another. So Deacon, Councilman, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I am Vice President of Flint City Council in partnership with the administration. Let us bow our heads. Thank you. After all, we're down there in the Clacks. I thank you all so much. The city can't move forward divided. Let us bow our head. Our Father, we come together in your precious name. Your word. Father, we can do nothing without you. We gather together this day, and I pray that your word go forth, and we honor you with our deeds. We thank you, and everyone in the room say amen. Amen.